The Rodriguez family reunion sprawled across Riverside Park like a small village. 53 relatives clustered around picnic tables, groaning under homemade tamales and tres leches cake, while children darted between folding chairs, and Uncle Miguel manned the massive grill. I sat quietly at the edge wearing jeans and a gray t-shirt, watching my cousins show off their achievements. Patricia displayed photos of her new Naperville house with granite countertops. Roberto held court about his promotion to regional sales manager. Even younger cousin Maria flashed her engagement ring from a rushed medical center doctor. Sofia. Grandpa's voice cut through the celebration like a machete. At 82, Eduardo Rodriguez commanded attention, his weathered hands gripping his walker as he positioned himself center stage. "Come here, mija. We need to talk." I approached reluctantly, knowing this wouldn't end well. The family disappointment speech was overdue. "Look around," he gestured at the assembled clan. "Patricia owns her home. Roberto leads a sales team. Maria's marrying a doctor. Even Danny graduated DePaul with his business degree." The family gathered, sensing drama. Conversations died as relatives pretended to focus on paper plates while listening. "And then there's you," Grandpa continued, disappointment heavy in his voice. 28 years old, still in that tiny Pilsen apartment, still working at that little nonprofit nobody understands. What do you even do there? File papers? Answer phones? "I run educational programs," I said quietly. "Educational programs," he repeated mockingly. "With crayons and construction paper? Mija, your grandmother and I came here with nothing. We built something. Your parents built on that. Your cousins continue the tradition." He pointed at Patricia. "She owns property that appreciates. At Roberto, he manages people, makes company decisions. At Maria, she's securing her future with a professional husband." The finger swung back to me. "But you waste your Northwestern education on charity work that pays nothing and leads nowhere. You're the weak link in our family chain." The words hit like physical blows. I'd heard variations before, but never in front of 53 relatives as witnesses. "Grandpa," Mom tried intervening. "Sofia does important work." "Important doesn't pay bills, Elena. Important doesn't build wealth or secure futures for the next generation." Uncle Miguel abandoned his grill. "Papa's right. You're too smart to waste life on feel-good projects. Think practically. All that Northwestern education," Aunt Carmen shook her head. "And for what? Some tiny organization in the old neighborhood." Cousin Roberto, emboldened by his promotion, piled on. "I could get you interviews at my company. Entry-level sales, but real career advancement. Better than whatever you're doing." "What I do has value," I said weakly. "Value?" Grandpa laughed harshly. "You know what has value?" He showed Patricia's house photo. "This, Roberto's LinkedIn page. Maria's engagement ring. Real achievements. Tangible results you can see and measure. But your work, nobody understands it. For all we know, you play computer games all day." The accusation stung because it revealed how little they understood. Chicago Future Leaders wasn't some tiny neighborhood nonprofit. It was a sophisticated educational technology company revolutionizing how underserved communities accessed advanced learning resources. But I deliberately kept a low profile, partly for security, and partly because I'd watched wealth destroy families. The Rodriguez clan valued traditional success markers: houses, cars, titles, rings, and explaining my work only led to questions I wasn't ready to answer. "You're 28, Grandpa pressed. Your grandmother ran a household and built business at your age. Your mother had 2 children supporting your father's construction company. What do you have to show for 3 decades? She has her apartment, Patricia offered weakly. A rental, Uncle Miguel corrected. No equity. Money disappearing into someone else's pocket monthly. And that 12-year-old Honda, Roberto added. The circle grew larger, teenagers putting down phones to watch the spectacle. I felt like a specimen under microscope, every aspect of my modest lifestyle dissected and found wanting. This is what I don't understand, Aunt Carmen said gently. You're smart, educated, speak perfect English. Understand technology. You could work anywhere. Why choose to struggle? I'm not struggling. Living paycheck to paycheck isn't struggling? Uncle Miguel asked skeptically. Shopping at thrift stores? Never taking vacations? Never buying anything new? Roberto's voice carried recent disposable income confidence. They weren't wrong about externals. I did shop thrift stores, drove an old Honda, lived modestly in Pilsen. But these were conscious choices, not limitations. When you're worth over $200 million, possessions become tools rather than status symbols. You're wasting potential, Grandpa declared. Letting down family, community, yourself. What example are you setting for the next generation? That education and opportunity don't matter. That's not what I'm doing. Then what are you doing? Explain it, Sofia. Make me understand why an intelligent, educated woman chooses to live like she's still in college. The question hung like smoke from Miguel's grill. 53 pairs of eyes waited, from elderly tias who remembered the old country to teenagers who'd never known anything but American prosperity. How could I explain that Chicago future leaders started in my living room 6 years ago with a simple idea? Using technology to bring advanced educational resources to underserved communities. The sophisticated learning management system we developed. Partnerships with major universities offering college courses to high school students who'd never imagined higher education possible. How could I describe our pilot program increasing college enrollment 400% in 3 Chicago schools? That we'd expanded to 47 schools across Illinois, Wisconsin, Indiana. That major foundations and tech companies were calling with partnership offers. I work in education, I said finally. Education doesn't pay, Roberto dismissed. Teachers make nothing, administrators slightly more than nothing. You'll never build wealth in nonprofits. Unless you're running major foundations, Patricia added. But those jobs need connections and political experience. They understood education as traditional schools, predictable salaries, government bureaucracy. No framework for educational technology entrepreneurship or venture capital ecosystems quietly funding our growth. The nonprofit sector is changing, I said carefully. Technology creates new opportunities. Technology? Grandpa's expression suggested I'd claimed to sell unicorns. Mija, technology is for young people with computer degrees, not charity programs. Real technology means software engineering, data analysis, artificial intelligence, Roberto added with LinkedIn authority. That's where money is. If only he knew Chicago future leaders had developed proprietary AI algorithms for personalized learning, that our data analysis attracted Google and Microsoft attention. But explaining meant revealing what we built, and I wasn't ready. Sofia needs realism, Aunt Carmen said kindly. Dreams are beautiful, but bills are real. Maybe consider career change. I could talk to HR, Roberto offered. They need bilingual candidates with education backgrounds. Customer service starts at $35,000. Or Patricia could introduce you to real estate agents, Uncle Miguel suggested. Housing market's hot. Smart woman like you could do well in sales. They were trying to help, offering solutions to problems they were certain existed. Genuine concern, undeniable love, but completely wrong understanding. What about dating? Maria added. You're pretty and smart. Find a good husband, someone established who could provide stability. Like a doctor or lawyer, Patricia agreed. Professional men appreciate educated women who understand family value. Marriage as economic strategy, still common in our family thinking, holdover from when women had fewer independent options. The problem, Grandpa said, refocusing, is Sofia has no ambition, no drive to improve her situation. She's comfortable being weak. I'm not weak. Then prove it. Show me something real, concrete, some achievement demonstrating you're not wasting your life. The challenge echoed across the picnic area where conversations had stopped. Even children sensed the moment's importance, games forgotten as they watched adults navigate family crisis. That's when I heard commotion near the park entrance. Black SUVs with tinted windows and official plates pulled up. Park security gestured toward our area while speaking into radios. Other families stopped activities to stare at the unusual sight. What's happening? Patricia asked, shading her eyes. SUV doors opened simultaneously, revealing people in business suits. At the center, I recognized Mayor Lightfoot's distinctive silhouette, flanked by city council members and others I didn't immediately identify. Is that the mayor? Roberto asked, his voice shifting from family advisor to awed citizen. The official delegation walked purposefully across the park, clearly heading our direction. Mayor Lightfoot led with confident strides, while others followed in formation suggesting both importance and security. They're coming here, Maria whispered. Grandpa went silent, his earlier authority evaporating as genuine political power approached our gathering. Sofia Rodriguez? Mayor Lightfoot called out, her voice carrying warm professionalism, but something personal suggesting this wasn't typical political appearance. Every family member turned to stare at me, expressions ranging from confusion to shock. I stood from my folding chair, suddenly aware I wore a gray t-shirt and jeans while being addressed by Chicago's mayor. Yes, Mom. Ms. Rodriguez. Sorry to interrupt your family gathering. The mayor approached with her characteristic smile. But when my staff said you'd be here today, I couldn't pass up thanking you personally. Thank me for the extraordinary donation to Chicago Public Education Foundation. $100 million for the new South Side Learning Center represents the largest private education donation in our city's history. The words hit like a bomb. 53 people went silent, eyes shifting between the mayor and me like tennis match spectators. Your generosity will impact generations, Mayor Lightfoot continued, oblivious to family drama she'd walked into. The South Side Learning Center will serve over 15,000 students annually, providing advanced resources to historically underserved communities. Grandpa's mouth hung open. Patricia dropped her plate. Roberto looked like someone had explained quantum physics in foreign language. Additionally, a city council member stepped forward. The Chicago Technology Education Initiative that your company, Chicago Future Leaders, pioneered is being adopted as national urban education reform model. Your innovative artificial intelligence for personalized learning, another official added, attracted Department of Education attention. Secretary Cardona specifically mentioned your work in his recent speech about American education's future. I felt 53 family members' weight staring at me, their entire understanding crumbling real time. The weak link was being praised by the mayor for revolutionizing education and donating more money than most would see in 10 lifetimes. Ms. Rodriguez, Mayor Lightfoot continued, I understand you prefer low profiles, but achievements of this magnitude deserve recognition. The city wants to honor you with the Chicago Innovation Award next month. That's kind, but I'd prefer focusing on students and communities we serve. Of course, that humility makes you such an effective leader, but City Council voted unanimously to name the new facility the Sofia Rodriguez Center for Educational Excellence. The mayor turned to my family, still standing in stunned silence. You should be incredibly proud. Sofia's not just transforming Chicago education. She's creating model cities nationwide are replicating. We had no idea, Mom whispered. Not surprising, Mayor Lightfoot smiled warmly. Sofia's been remarkably modest about achievements. Most don't realize Chicago future leaders started in her apartment 6 years ago and grew into one of the Midwest's most innovative educational technology companies. Educational technology company? Uncle Miguel repeated, translating words into comprehensible language. Absolutely, a council member confirmed. Chicago future leaders developed proprietary learning algorithms adapting to individual student needs real-time. Their platform serves over 300 schools across 7 states. Last year's analysis showed, another official added, students using Chicago future leaders demonstrated learning gains equivalent to an additional year and half of traditional instruction. Grandpa found his voice, croaking, Sofia, you own a company. I founded it 6 years ago. And it's worth. Roberto started, then trailed off as if the question was too enormous. Recent Series C funding valued Chicago future leaders at $480 million. Mayor Lightfoot answered matter-of-factly, making Sofia one of the youngest female CEOs in educational technology. The number hit like a second bomb. Patricia sat heavily. Uncle Miguel stared like I was from another planet. But the apartment, Aunt Carmen said weakly, the old car, I choose modest living. When running a company serving underserved communities, lifestyle choices become philosophical statements. How can I ask schools to trust me with students' futures if I'm driving Lamborghinis to their parking lots? Besides, the Pilsen apartment keeps me connected to communities we serve. Most students' families live within 10 blocks. It's important. I understand their daily reality. Mayor Lightfoot nodded approvingly. That community connection makes Chicago future leaders so effective. Sofia doesn't just develop educational technology. She understands social and economic factors affecting learning outcomes. The $100 million donation, a council member explained to my family, represents about 20% of her personal wealth. She's committed to reinvesting success directly back into communities that inspired her work. 20% of. Grandpa was attempting math, expressions suggesting numbers weren't computing. Sofia is worth approximately $500 million, the mayor clarified gently, between company ownership and related investments. But she's committed to giving away the majority over the next decade. The Rodriguez reunion had transformed into something surreal. 53 relatives who'd gathered for carne asada and family gossip were receiving educational technology briefings from Chicago's mayor. We should let you return to family time, Mayor Lightfoot said, recognizing she'd shared more than I'd preferred. But Sofia, please consider attending the award ceremony. Your work deserves recognition, even if you rather avoid spotlights. I'll think about it. Excellent. Please continue the incredible work. Chicago is lucky to have innovators like you. The delegation walked toward their SUVs, leaving 53 Rodriguez family members processing what happened. The mayor had thanked the family disappointment for $100 million donations and revolutionizing Midwest education. Silence stretched minutes. Uncle Miguel returned to his grill mechanically, forgetting why he was there. Patricia stared at her plate like it contained universe secrets. Even children sensed something fundamental had shifted. Finally, Grandpa spoke. "Sofia, mija, why didn't you tell us?" "Because I was afraid this would happen, that everything would change, that you'd see dollar signs instead of family, that conversations would become about money instead of who we are as people." "But we thought," he started, then stopped, realizing what they thought was completely wrong. "You thought I was the weak link. Maybe I was, in how you measure strength. I don't own granite countertop houses, don't drive new cars or wear expensive clothes or take luxury vacations." I looked around at confused, embarrassed faces beginning to understand. "But I built something that matters. Something changing lives and creating opportunities for kids who might otherwise never get them. That felt more important than impressing people with material success." Roberto shook his head slowly. $500 million. That's more than our entire family has ever had combined. It's not about money. It's about what money can do. Every algorithm we develop, every school partnership, every student getting advanced learning access. That's what matters. Maria found her voice. "Why hide it? Why let us think you were struggling?" "Because I wanted you to love me for who I am, not what I'm worth. I wanted family dinners about family, not business plans or investment advice or people suddenly needing loans." Aunt Carmen was crying, tears of regret mixed with pride. "Mija, we're so sorry. We didn't understand." "You couldn't understand. I made sure of that. I chose keeping work separate from family because I'd seen too many families torn apart by sudden wealth." Grandpa leaned heavily on his walker, earlier words clearly affecting him. "Sofia, I owe you an apology. A big one." "You don't owe me anything, Grandpa. You tried motivating me based on what you could see. The problem was that what you saw wasn't the whole story. But calling you the weak link made me stronger. Every time someone said I was wasting potential or living beneath my means, it reminded me I was building something bigger than external validation." The gathering slowly returned to normal, though conversations remained subdued and thoughtful. Children resumed games, but adults clustered around me, still processing their failure relative was actually a tech entrepreneur and philanthropist. "Can we see it?" Patricia asked quietly. "Your company. Could we visit Chicago Future Leaders?" I studied her face for genuine interest rather than wealth curiosity. "Why do you want to see it?" "Because I want to understand what you've built and understand you better." A start. Not complete family dynamic transformation, but acknowledgement their success definition had been too narrow to recognize what I'd achieved. "We're in Fulton Market District. 3 floors, 120 employees. We could arrange tours if you're genuinely interested in educational technology, rather than just business." "We're interested," Uncle Miguel said firmly. "Sofia, we owe you more than apologies. We owe you respect. You always had my respect. That's why your opinion mattered. Why I wanted to succeed on terms that would eventually make sense to you." My phone buzzed, my head of operations texting. The mayor's public thank you had been captured by news photographers, and the mystery education donor's story was trending on social media. Monday would bring public attention I'd avoided 6 years. I should head home. This week will be complicated, and I need preparing for media attention. I'd rather avoid. Of course, Mom said quickly. But Sofia? Next Sunday dinner, could you tell us more about your work? Really tell us, not just simple versions? I looked around at family, people who'd raised, supported, and fundamentally misunderstood me for years. Not bad people, just people who'd made assumptions and stuck to them longer than assumptions made sense. I'd like that. But it means hearing about artificial intelligence, learning algorithms, venture capital funding, understanding that 21st century success looks different than when Grandpa and Grandma came to Chicago. We're ready to learn, Grandpa said, his voice carrying decades of family authority, but tempered now with humility. Walking toward my 12-year-old Honda, I heard family beginning to discuss what they'd learned. Conversations would continue long after I left, as 53 people tried reconciling their understanding of success and failure with what I'd quietly built. The drive through Pilsen gave me time thinking about what came next. Chicago future leaders would soon be public knowledge, meaning the careful balance I'd maintained between work and family life was shifting dramatically. But maybe that wasn't entirely bad. Maybe it was time for family to see the whole person I'd become, not just the modest lifestyle I'd maintained. Monday would bring reporters and photographers, interview requests, and profile articles. The invisible educational technology entrepreneur was about to become very visible. But at its core, Chicago Future Leaders would remain exactly what it always was: a company proving every student deserves excellent education access, regardless of ZIP code or family income. Pulling into my parking lot, I thought about next Sunday's family dinner. Probably different this time, with new questions and deeper conversations. Maybe Grandpa would finally understand that the granddaughter he'd called the weak link had actually been strengthening the chain in ways he'd never imagined possible.